can be scary being a parent, can't it? And I dare say that's true just in the day-to-day upbringing of a human being. Am I getting this right? Am I messing them up? And then we add in the challenges that many parents are facing, where when our children are in fear and the nervous system does what the nervous system does, the fight, flight, freeze response. And today I want to focus on fight in particular, and in other videos we'll go into other elements, I dare say. And for this particular conversation, I want to speak to a few elements, really. Number one, your fear in the face of a fight response is absolutely understandable. And it is not the only option, the only outcome, the only way of being with that fear. The second is the language that we use around how our children are showing up when in that fight response, with their language or with their actions. They could be being destructive, they could be being violent towards themselves, towards another, towards you. And we label that with certain words and certain judgments. And fear comes up in us about their future, not just in the moment, long-term fear. And then we're briefly going to have a look at boundaries. I went deep on this in a training that I gave today in a 12-week program that I lead. But we'll touch on that today because it's valuable. It's a valuable conversation to be in. So, I'm non-scripted. First, the first thing. You know, I'm smiling and I'm bringing lightness here. And I want you to know that I have lived experience of a fight response within my child. That's as much detail as I'm willing to go into, because I want to honour and respect my child's right to privacy. And I get it, right? So when I say to you that fear is not the only option, and that when you can see this and you can shift from fear into compassion, which gives you access to safety and steadiness within yourself. So much more becomes possible for you as a leader of your family, and for the connection and the trust and the safety within your family. I got no quick fixes and no magic wands as far as what the future holds. And what I want for you is for you to be able to claim safety and steadiness and certainty within the uncertainty, within the explosiveness. To keep your heart open and to know how to meet yourself, primarily to bring the focus into yourself, to be able to regulate your own nervous system so that any words and any actions that you take do not come from fear. Because when fear meets fear, we have a child who's dysregulated fundamentally. You know this, right? I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Dysregulated child who is grasping at some element of control to somehow feel like they have some kind of agency, some kind of power. And they're doing it through force. There's an amazing book, I have it right here. You're probably going to see it backwards. It's called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. It's flipping amazing. Read this book. Camera's over here. So what happens when we force? You apply force, equal and opposite force pushes back, right? So we have fear and we have fear, and we have clashing, and we have a break in connection. So we have so much distance that can grow. We have worry in our own system about what it means about us as parents. Where did we go wrong? What did we do? We start to blame ourselves. Or maybe we blame the world, the system, someone else, the influence of fill in the blank, right? And every time we do this, we're doing this from fear. Every time we blame, we're putting our peace, our agency, our power outside of ourselves. For me, power and love are synonymous. They're the same thing. So I see my child is acting from a state of fear. My child is afraid. And therefore, my child is asking me to become someone I have not yet been, possibly. To stand in my power without trying to control. We're going to go to boundaries now. So 2 is becoming 3 and 3 is becoming 2. Without trying to control, right? I'm not going to use fear to squash a behavior or to squash an emotion. My primary directive in the moment of dysregulation in my child, and probably in myself, because my body's like, hey, there's danger here, right? There's danger. So of course, our nervous system is going to do what it's designed to do, survival. There's no solutions in survival. There's no connection in survival. Survival is all about protecting me. I'm not able to love my child in that moment when I'm operating from that place. Now, for me personally, and this is what I teach, is yes, I want to get regulated. Yes, I want to create safety and steadiness within myself. And in my experience, that feeling of fear and that feeling of tension, it doesn't have to be completely gone by any stretch of the imagination for me to be able to access the love that's inside my heart, for me to drop into my heart space, to breathe deeply and ask myself, what would love do? I set the intention in my mind, in my body, in my heart to create unity, calm, and balance. And I take action from that place. I speak from that place. I take on the role of leadership and I apply the standards that I stand for. These are the boundaries, right? Not boundaries as walls, not boundaries as squashing or pushing back against anything, but boundaries that take a stand for something. We're modeling something with our boundaries. We're modeling, I love myself enough to not tolerate this behavior, these words. In this house, we stand for connection, love, kindness, unity. I remember the truth of who my child is, right? That baby that got put in your arms and you watch them grow and you watch their joy. And then things happen in their life and the fear sets in. And that joyous, incredible, creative, compassionate, funny, kind, expressive being, they haven't gone. And they're not able to access that in their fear. So we get to hold space for their fear. We get to remember who they are and speak to that. I'm just wanting to dial it back in here because I'm very passionate about this, and I also don't want to go off on too many tangents, so let me bring it back in. When I have the intention of unity, I have the connection to my standards, what I'm standing for, not just for me, but for the frightened person in front of me. I have compassion, and I will not tolerate unacceptable words or behaviors. The words to speak and the actions to take will naturally come from a loving place and create ultimately more connection, more trust, more love, more understanding. And it gives them a way home. When you can meet your own fear, choose to regulate yourself even within the chaos. And this is a practice, and it's doable. Trust me, this is what I teach. They find their way back to safety. They find their way back to who they are. And we get to create that deeper connection. And it all comes down to the energetics, right? This is the main piece. This is the main piece where we must learn our own worth, our own value, and how to love ourselves so completely that that love pours out naturally, whatever state of being is in front of us. That's not a passive process. That's not an allowing of things. And it's, as I said, us becoming more and more and more loving, strong, and certain with every moment of dysregulation. One thing that I've been hating quite a bit of recently, we're going to talk about the language now. And language is a huge topic. It's a huge, huge topic. And what I want to call into your awareness, we'll just touch on it and do with it what you will. You take what works for you and you leave what doesn't. And notice what your language feels like as you say it. So I saw an Instagram reel recently where the woman was talking about parent to child abuse. I understand why that language makes sense. I understand the fear and the sadness and the disempowerment that can be experienced and is experienced in many homes. And I want you to think about the kind of relationship that label holds in place. We want change to be a possibility, right? We want more connection. We want more peace. We want more trust. We want love and harmony and unity. This is a word that I live from. Unity. I'm not going to have unity with an abuser. That's number one. And there's a lot deeper that I can share. And again, maybe I'll save that for another video. But when we put something in a box like that, like my relationship is abusive, we're going to start to see and experience everything through that label, through that lens. It's creative. The experience has come first, and then all of a sudden I have an abusive chat. For me, even saying that sentence, it gets stuck in my throat. It doesn't make sense for me. Because the other piece of that is abuse is about power, right? And the way that I want to create the world within me and around me is a world of compassion. That compassion starts with me, for me, where I know my worth, I know my standards, I know what I'm available for, I know what I've been tolerating and what I'm no longer available for. And these are conversations we get to have with ourselves over and over and over again. And I get to have compassion for a person in pain, for a child in fear who is stuck in a survival mode that somehow makes sense for them. It's not okay. We want support for our kids. We want them to be able to express their fear in a way that is not harmful to themselves or others. We get to model that first, and we get to hold that standard. When fear comes up in your own system, in any context, in any situation, we get to meet that. And we get to consider what is life asking me to become in this moment? What is love asking me to do in this moment? And we remove this idea of blame. So important, in my opinion, in my experience. No blame, no shame. But being able to respond to the present moment from love, not fear. And as I said, being able to feel both and make that choice to tap into your own power, which needs no justification, which needs no approval. And this, again, these are all deep concepts that I break down a lot more detail in my 3-month journey. We go deep in this in the mentorship space, and I'd love to know what you've heard in this video. If you're still with me, what's come up for you? What challenged you? What shifted for you? And if you'd like to explore working together, then leave me a comment, drop me an email. Let's have a conversation and get you remembering who you are and in touch with your heart again. Sending you so much love. See you soon.